Good morning, everyone. My name is Andra Miron. I am the guest of the whole event, Women in Data Science. We have just finished the first public panel, and now we are starting the first business panel. And this is the one, Data Science Aspects in Arbitration Procedure. The host of this panel and the moderator of this panel today is Mrs. Professor Dr. Crenguța Lewa, board member of Silicon Valley Arbitration and Mediation Center. Good morning, Mrs. Lewa. Please, you have the word.
Good morning. I hope that you can see a live version of myself. At this moment, I am afraid that I'm facing a technical challenge. So could you please confirm?
Yes, we can see you, but we can manage the tech problem in a short while.
Okay. Okay, great. Our topic in this panel is actually much broader than my own area of specialization, which is the alternative dispute resolution and arbitration procedure. So I will be addressing this topic, but at the very end of this panel, after all the other colleagues will introduce their own ideas into our discussion of today. It is my privilege to be in such a distinguished company with Martina Bruder, with Janina Moraru, with Rodica Vremescu, with Silvia Uscov, Mirela Iovu, and Maria Accente. I will tell you more about each of them as soon as their turn will start. And without further ado, please allow me to introduce Martina Bruder. Martina is the CEO in Germany and Managing Director for the Regional and Center Wolters-Kluwer Legal and Regulatory. Martina's careers has led her from print via electronic media to digital, and from mid-sized, well-established companies to startup and global players. Among others, she had leading roles at TV stations NBC and CNBS and at Yahoo, and was a member of the group board for Scout 24 Group. At Wolters-Kluwer, she focused on transforming the businesses from print to digital. My question to you, Martina, in this panel is, since you develop expert solutions for the legal market, what is the role of data science at Wolters-Kluwer?
Well, thank you, Professor Lewa, for this kind introduction and the question, which I'm very happy to ask in the next 8 minutes. So, other than most participants in this conference today, I'm not a data scientist. I'm here to support the mission of encouraging women in tech. And I'm here to emphasize the importance of data science for Wolters-Kluwer as a global information provider whose mission it is to provide the best support and service for our customers, as they bear a huge responsibility for our societies with the work they do. Just a very, very brief view at our company. Our 19,000 employees serve customers in more than 180 countries. And what I want you to take away from this slide, if it was up, I don't see the slide. Yeah, so the 19,000 employees serve customers in more than 180 countries. But what I want you on this great day today with Women in Data Science to take away from this chart is the fact that more than 50% of our top management on all levels around the globe are women. So if we look at the next chart, our customers work in industries which impact the lives of millions of people every single day. They save lives and they fight for justice. We are committed to helping them improve the way they work, get better results, and solve highly complex problems in an ever-changing world. It is our purpose to empower customers to make informed decisions and deliver deep impact when it matters most. Looking specifically at our legal and regulatory business, which is also our focus in Romania, our expert solutions combine deep domain knowledge with advanced technology and services. They are designed to deliver timely and actionable insights. More data and higher quality of data analysis lead to better solutions for our customers. Yet an extremely powerful statement for us, as together with our customers, we support more transparent, just, and safer societies around the world. Data science does nothing less than enabling the discovery of truth. The relevant dimensions are find, understand, and analyze. And to get directly to the question which you, Professor Leao, have asked me, I brought one example of an expert solution that helps lawyers to understand and control the complexities of a case. The product is casework construction. So if you think for just a moment of the embarrassing scandal of our infamous Berlin airport, which opened in October last year with a 9 years delay, you can easily imagine the hangar full of documents for this legal case. All these documents have to be read, they have to be analyzed, and they have to be organized for the lawyer to gain control and transparency over such a complex case. Now, Caseworks is doing that for you. It analyzes the documents. It analyzes which documents belong to the same topic. Let's say fire protection or ventilation or statics. It identifies the dates, the parties and their roles and the specific events, and organizes the entire case with all its documents and all its relations along a timeline. And you can imagine that in the case of the Berlin airport, this timeline will be for over many, many years. So data science, in this very precise case, enables the lawyer to gain transparency and control over the even most complex case and maintain this control over the many years it will take to settle the dispute, or the disputes in that case. So let me finish my statement by just saying three things. With data science, we make a contribution to safer and more just societies. We need more data and an even higher quality of data analysis. We need more data scientists and more women in data science to correct the gender bias. And that is why we are here, and that is a topic of which you will hear much more from the following speakers. So thank you very much.
I hope that the technical glitch is now better, at least my voice can get through. Martina, thank you so much for your presentation, which was posing a very interesting question to which I will catch up later, I must say, which is that data science purpose is enabling discovering the truth. Now that is something very important, and thank you very much for bringing the topic up front. I will close the circle with it as well. But in the meantime, because it's 8th of March today, what diversity means for your company in the products that you build?
Well, being a global company, you can imagine that diversity plays a huge role, and it's not only the gender diversity, it's diversity across, the walks of life, having people with very, very different educational backgrounds. And I think the commitment is very simple, because all we who are on this panel today, and I'm sure most of our audience also know, you come to better results if you work in mixed teams. Yeah, and that means a lot. Yeah, so our company invests a lot in taking care of diversity, making sure that you have people from different backgrounds, and that you always have powerful leaders who make diversity a point in our everyday life, and not just a verbal commitment, but an actual commitment.
Thank you so much, and with this in mind, I will now invite our next speaker, which is Mrs. Janina Molaru, who is a global VP of Legal on Products and Privacy at UiPath. Managing a team advising the company on product legal compliance, intellectual property, technology engagements, and privacy compliance. She also has assisted international clients in complex multi-jurisdictional banking and finance transactions during her previous work with Clifford Chance and Deloitte Legal. She will address to us the topic of the regulatory promise of ethical AI. Now, we know that we are dreaming of a world powered by AI for some amount of time, and we've been fearing it and its effects on mankind. I mean, I myself, I grew up with sci-fi literature, as many of you did. So of course that the topic is challenging now in reality, as it was challenging the imagination previously. So Janina, what do you think about regulatory keeping up with technology?
Thank you so much for the introduction, Knegutsa, and thank you, Wolters-Kluwer and 360 Degrees for inviting me to this event. I'm really honored to be talking in this panel with a set of amazing women, to be honest. And to your question, Knegutsa, I think it's really interesting that it's not the first time that technology is changing the way people are working. It's not the first time that people are afraid of introduction of technology into our lives. We've been experiencing this before, and somehow mankind typically manages to just walk alongside technology by just trying to redesign the way we are working and the way we are just working with each other. Of course, we've been dreaming of this world powered by AI, which will help us to make our work more efficient, to reduce the time we spend working, and so on, and increasing the quality of everyday's work, of everyday services. And it goes way beyond just work. It goes to the field of healthcare, of innovation, of education, and stuff that is very powerful, and it's very important for our development as mankind. However, what we're seeing recently that we haven't seen before is that regulation cannot keep up with technology. And why is that? It's because the incremental steps that were done so far are now moving at such a fast pace that no one can keep up. So we've been seeing the EU and the US struggling to really get their grasp on enacting fair regulation with a dynamic mindset that so far has been surpassed by the move of technology. One approach would be sandbox regulation, allowing companies and allowing AI players around the world to just play with AI in a fair framework of policies that are enacted, and in close connection with EU and US and international bodies. That would help a lot. It will help redesign the way regulation works. Regulation shouldn't be just a set of terms and conditions with associated sanctions, but rather guiding steps for companies, for people, and helping them cope with with innovation and with what technology stands for. And I think that by imposing regulatory sandboxes rather than strict and stripped of dynamics regulations, that would help with moving on technology.
Thank you so much. I was wondering, listening to you, how do you think that the regulatory bodies prevent misuse of emerging technology?
That's a very interesting question. And the first response that we would be we would arguably have is enforce regulation, but that's not it. To my point, that's not it. What I see is a lack of, so there's conversation between regulatory bodies and companies. There is some conversation, but I think the partnership side is what is missing right now. As we've seen with
I think we lost you for a second. So would you
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yes. Great. So sorry. Speaking of technology, it is bound to fail us at times. So just to resume my point, there is some conversation between regulatory bodies and companies. However, the problem is that we are failing to have a partnership. So we've seen with a lot of regulation that are very impactful and very global that they are not seeing the complexities of how work is being done, how strategies are being built by companies. So I think that's the key. Having regulatory bodies, having the European Commission, for instance, really partnering up with companies that are using technology for the greater good, that would contribute a lot to how the regulation would look like, how fair would the AI would be, and so on. And I think one key point, and to Mrs. Bruder's point earlier, an algorithm bias resides in a data sets used for training. Now, Mrs. Bruder, and the reason why we're here today on the 8th of March is that women should be a bigger part, should play a bigger role in the AI workforce. And I think that's where the regulatory bodies can look at. If you want to use fair and ethical AI, you really need to look at the people developing the AI, the data sets used to train the AI. And this is what we're not seeing right now. Policies to introduce women into the workforce and into the need of what AI development is. And the narrative with the EU so far is that the EU should not copy-paste everyday bias into AI algorithms. And the use of AI algorithms could perpetuate and even stimulate the biases that are intrinsic to our society today. But what about global society? Because we're looking at it from a very narrow perspective. What the US is looking for their perspective, EU as well, and other countries from unilateral perspectives as well. But we are living in a globalized world, and this is not a truth that we can avoid. So as opposed to decades ago, countries at the opposite sides are more connected than ever. Services created in the EU may affect citizens across the globe and vice versa. Is looking at narrowed societal diversity, as limited as that may be, enough to tackle generalized bias and diversity constraints? I would argue that it isn't. So I think regulatory bodies have a critical, of course, mission into driving fair AI into the market, and that is make sure that you have the proper people working with AI, and make sure that the regulatory bodies across the globe are connected to each other and enforce regulations that are useful across the globe, not just in a particular region.
Thank you. So I take that interconnection. It's something that you feel is missing today in the envisaged regulatory space. Is there anything else missing that you might think of, possibly using the opportunity of today to give the hint to those that might help in the first panel?
Yes, of course. As Mrs. Bruder said, I think we really need to get women involved into today's technology development. And I know there's so much talent, and everyone knows there's so much talent in at this side of the wall, but for some reason it's not being used at its full potential.
Thank you, Janina, and I hope that this will change in the future to the benefit of all. Our next speaker is Rodica Vremescu, who is a principal dispute attorney with Ruben Mayer, Doru and Trandafir, a Romanian law firm. Rodica has more than 18 years of professional experience in complex litigation and arbitration proceedings. She is a graduate of FIDC in Strasbourg and of the WIPO Academy, and a member of the Romanian Chamber of Patent Attorneys, being specialized in, of course, intellectual property rights, but also in administrative, tax law, and online commerce, with a focus on AI legal framework. Rodica, could you give us some examples of the measures that companies involved in the AI development might consider in their attempt to manage discrimination risk? I take that you are looking at the discrimination risk in particular in your presentation today.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Ms. Lau, for the introduction. Well, it's a great privilege for me to be part of this panel and to be able to present you with few ideas regarding the impact AI has on major issues, as Ms. Lau says, one of which is the fight against discrimination. And just picking up from where Janina left it, the idea is that we do live the age of machine thinking, and it's an exciting time because me, as well as Ms. Lau pointed out, as a teenager, reading Isaac Asimov's, dreamed of this, but never thought I would end up living it. Well, we do live it, and as they say, just make sure what you wish for, because you might get it. At this point, we do have AI, and we need to learn how to manage it, and to manage it in a manner that would not cost us too much, because in fact it is a real evolutionary step, but we may now end up paying a higher price than the one we expect to. And I'm referring here to human rights and to fundamental liberties, with a pinpoint on, as I said, equal treatment and discrimination. I understood the idea which Janina wanted to present, but me being a litigator, actually, I'm seeing the darker side of the moon, let's say, the moment when people do not end up being connected but disconnected, and disputes arises. And one of the main issues is that currently the way different sides of the market or of the technology are treating the AI as a product may lead up of dismissing the essential aspects. What I'm referring to is that we are all mainly focused on what we do best. Me as a lawyer on the legal side, the tech industry on how to create better and effective AI systems, but we lose the convergence point where the two overlap. And I'm referring here to how AI may benefit the fundamental rights, but also may harm them. I know that everybody nowadays discuss about the threats AI may represent, but I do want to point just in a few moments the benefits, because I think we have to keep the balance here. And I'm convinced that at the end of the day, AI is the perfect tool to fight against discrimination, because it has the potential to eliminate those kind of human behaviors which lead to discrimination but are so hard to be detected and controlled, and believe me, so hard to be proven in court, for example, like the similarity attraction effect, when people tend to choose from the pool of let's say candidates for a job only those which are similar to them, or the confirmation bias, where a manager used to tend to promote those employees who never disagree with them and always support their opinions, rather than promoting those who are proactive or professional, but by this they have a different approach. Not to speak about the halo effect, which is quite a huge aspect, which is so hard to be eliminated. AI could also lead to eliminating the sexist stereotypes which are embedded in so many communities, like, for example, the belief that women are more emotional during a month than certain periods of the month. Believe me, I had the unfortunate experience just 2 weeks ago in front of a judge. A male colleague accused me of being way too emotional in court because he thought I was in a certain period of the month, which was unbelievable for 2021. But having an AI intervene in the decision making could eliminate this kind of stereotypes which are so deep embedded in the collective mental. Also, AI could easily mitigate corporate gender and leadership gaps, as Ms. Gruder mentioned, and it also has a huge impact of diminishing the burden women face versus men with regards to how to balance their professional life with their personal life, because as the recent study showed, the burden women have on daily basis is quite high, because they have to overcome private matters and to balance them with professional. So this is the part with the benefits, but besides these potential positives, is there a reverse side of the coin? And the answer is yes, there is a reverse side of the coin, because the way AI has an allure of objectivity, but the way it works, input data, steps, and output data may lead up to some bias elements that could affect or compromise the outcome in itself. And I'm referring here to those types of bias which are unconscious. I mean, I don't think anybody seeks out to put on the market a product which creates intentional bias. But the way it works, and especially the way I read, I mean, I'm not a specialist, so bear with me. For example, unlike the traditional coding, as I understood, in AI coding, you actually try to create a map between the input and output, and to generate the best outcome based on the data the algorithm is fed on. Hence, there are some aspects which may lead, as I said, to bias, and they may appear at any moment on the pipeline of an AI. For example, if let's say the class labels are not correctly identified, or are identified by a certain manner, they may lead to bias outcome. I will just give the example Professor Borgesius gave. For example, if an employer wants to define an engaged employee. It might raise up as a class label the idea of not being late at work. But not being late at work means having means of reaching work. And those who own car reach work faster than those who use public transportation. However, it has been shown that women usually use more frequently public transportation, so they end up reaching office later than those with cars, which generates a bias output. There are also risks that come out of the training data an AI may be fed with, in the sense that unbalanced training data may generate that kind of output which favors one particular group. Or, for example, the past discrimination which are embedded in historic data sets may end up being part of the output. And the example I would like to give is the one of the diagnosis of cardiac arrest. One of the main symptoms everybody is familiar with is the central chest pain. But this is a male symptom. Usually more than 40% of women never experience chest pain. They usually experience dizziness or nausea or stomach aches, and these are actually female related symptoms. But if an AI is trained mainly on data which put the central chest pain as a main symptom, you might end up in having misdiagnosed woman with heart attacks dismissed, which may lead up also, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be here extreme, but may lead up to a high number of deaths by a heart attack in women. And that's why I think
really a very interesting approach that's combined between biological specificity, diversity in terms of mentalities, and the technical implications of taking them into consideration in an automized manner. I would ask you, Rodica, sorry for interrupting, where do you feel that the human factor might be introduced? I mean, do you think that this might be a mandatory step before launching any technology to allow some human intervention? How do you suggest to proceed?
I know this would be just the opposite of what Janina said, but I think that by in the idea of protecting what as I said, basic human rights, I think that at one point the final step before deploying any AI would be to have an audit or a quality control, a mandatory quality control of an AI.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is something that we will keep as a second point to launch towards the first panel in some sort of reversed logic of time of the day of today. With many thanks to you, Rodica, for your excellent presentation. I will suggest now to have the floor given to Sylvia Uskov, who is a managing partner of Uskov and Associates firm, with a specialization in bankruptcy and restructuring, but also being an experienced business attorney with a special area of expertise in dispute resolution and human rights. Sylvia has safeguarded human rights and civil liberties through civil and criminal proceedings in front of both local and international courts, such as the European Court of Human Rights. She is both in the possession of an LLM in criminal law and of a diploma in international relations from the Romanian Diplomatic Institute. Now, I think that in the years to come, a lot of diplomatic efforts will be needed in order to achieve what the previous speakers mentioned, namely to persuade the regulatory bodies to take into consideration the needs of this very interesting new era that we are living in. But I would rather ask Sylvia about the role of human rights in the artificial intelligence context. The topic was launched by Rodica, but Sylvia, I think that you might wish to add more of your experience to our discussion today.
Thank you, Karenguta, and nice to see you all in this great panel. I would like to wish you a happy Women's Day. Yes, following the presentation of Janina, first of all, I would like to engage in a discussion with about the digital law. I saw some conferences recently that they were talking about digital law as a law that is applicable by itself. It's adaptive and it's codified. And I would like to give you an example of what it means. For example, nowadays, when we drive a car and we should stop at the red light, otherwise we will be sanctioned. But in the future, the vehicle will be the one that will stop at the red light. So the law goes from constraint, like nowadays, to force in the future. It doesn't just sanction, because it will be impossible a breach of it, since it's codified. So, like you said, in the diplomatic and political aspect, the authority of the state will go to this digital law. It shall be in an algorithm. It won't be in a legal norm. So, from my point of view, I was asking myself, how will it be considered the provided by law means in what we see in nowadays in the convention, and also necessary in a democratic society. I think that we will have a change also in this political area, since the AI will be more of a force and not just a constraint like nowadays. This is the first thing. The second thing is that, well, people will face some challenges. For example, because of the robots, the work will be carried out by them. In the Locke's theory, the work is linked to the property. So maybe we will have also some changes in this field. Another thing, superhumans. Superhumans are the ones that have some body parts or that can prolong their life through some AI aspects, AI technology. And I was asking myself, because I'm more of a question woman and not a statement woman, how will the human rights be reshaped in the AI context? For example, humans, normal humans that will have only universal basic income will not work, and maybe they won't have the amount to prolong their life, to incorporate in themselves some bionic parts, will be equal to superhumans that will gather all these advantages of the future. And another thing that we should take into consideration is the privacy right. In the AI context, since it's based on data and metadata, will it be reshaped or will it be null? These are my questions, and it's more of an invitation for everyone to take into consideration and answer in the future in terms of regulating them in terms of developing such technology?
Thank you so much, Sylvia. That is a very provocative line of questions, I would say, and you're not the only one thinking of them. I have had the privilege last year to participate at the Vatican University. Their philosophy philosophy department chair, has the special area of specialization, which is transhumanism. And the era of enhanced humans and their problems as opposed to the regular human beings. So we are living in an era in which we are challenged all over, lawyers not being the only category thinking about it, as we all know. We are still staying within the lawyer's perspective, though, today, with our next speaker, which is Mirela Iovu, a lady with almost 23 years in the banking system, as in the last positions, vice president of the Czech Bank, which is also placing her in the position to have been part of the team and even leading for a while the team of implementation of the digital agenda of this very important bank in Romania. Being a doctor in law with a PhD at the Faculty of Law in Bucharest and also holding an MBA from City University of Seattle, and a postgraduate diploma in governance, risk and compliance from the International Compliance Association. I take that her presentation today will be leading us into some very interesting perspectives, basically about the role of technologies in the daily legal activities. And with that in mind, Mirela, I would ask you, what would you like to share with us today more about this topic? I'm afraid we can't hear you. If you can unmute yourself.
You're right.
Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here today as a representative of the Romanian in-house lawyers from the Banking System Association. Thank you very much once again to Wolters Kluwer and 360 Romania organization. Congratulations, ladies, for your inspiring presentations, and congratulations for Women International Day. As a lawyer, I try to figure out how artificial intelligence, technology will change my professional life, because it's obvious for all of us that technology is part of our lives today. And for the future, maybe the sky will be the limit. From the perspective of a professional, both in banking and in the legal services, I remembered once that I read something very interesting in '96, a book by Professor Richard Susskind from Oxford, who predicted in 1996 that the lawyers and the clients will communicate via email in '96. Of course, at the time, most of the lawyers consider that this is a kind of a crazy prediction, but soon after, we all realized that the email is part of our life. Today, we cannot imagine communicating each other both in personal life or in professional life without email. Professor Susskind in 2019 also predicted that in 10 years from now legal services, and in particular the court, will be online. So all the services in the legal system will be online. So artificial intelligence will be part of legal service. Legal professionals are known that they are a bit reluctant in adopting technology. I have to admit that I've been in the same positions a few years ago. I consider that is not the case. Technology and artificial intelligence is not going to be very soon part of our professional life. But today I'm here to try to convince my peers, my colleagues from not only from the banking system but from legal professional, that as soon as we will adopt technology, the better. So what I mean by that, why I transmit this this invitation. It is clear that once we will implement artificial intelligence in the legal services, there are three main areas so far, because I'm sure that the people working in technology will consider more areas in which artificial intelligence will evolve. We will have a lot of room, a lot of space for professional training. As Mrs. Uskov rightly pointed out earlier, we'll face new discipline in law schools. This is the future. And we as generations which left school years ago, being legal professional, we have to adapt to the new era, to the new discipline. So to me, it's a matter of time until the law schools in Romania or in other countries will develop new discipline, new digital law, digital lawyers, why not? So we have to cope with this, we have to keep pace with this. So in a few words, I consider that without technology, the legal professions cannot evolve, cannot survive over the years. I don't want to. I kindly invite all of you who would like to understand more about what Professor Suskind indicate in his recent books. You will see that there are a lot of room and room for development. For instance, digital court. This will be the new trend, and to my surprise, I noticed that countries like China and India already implemented a program of artificial intelligence in their court of law. I believe that this will be the trend in Romania as well, and I know that the Ministry of Justice has already a strategy that they are developing a strategy how to make court and court activity digital. So as I explained earlier, today the artificial intelligence in the legal services might be grouped in three main areas. One is document analysis, the second one is legal research, and the third one is practice automation. For lawyers who are in the banking system, we know that for more than 2 years, we are talking about online onboarding, loan origination, know your customer via video. So it's clear that we are not going to be bored in the next years. We have to indicate to our colleagues from the banking system that this is the trend, this is the future. So we have to find solutions to implement artificial intelligence in the legal services. So the future is here. So we have to do our best to go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mirela, for this very appropriate, I would say, warning that we are all aware of and we must be aware of. The future is today. Actually, there is no other time than today. So let's see what is our today's second last speaker, as I will make some final remarks at the end. But as we all know, Maria Accente is anything but a last speaker on anybody else's list. She is a person with a very in-depth knowledge of the topic of our day. She's the responsible AI and AI for Good Leader at PwC in UK. As in her role, she advises partners across industry, academia, governments, and more on how to harness the power of AI in an ethical and responsible manner. She has played a crucial part in the development and setup of PwC's UK AI Centre of Intelligence, the firm's AI strategy, and most recently, the development of PwC Responsible AI Toolkit, the first methodology for embedding ethics in AI. Maria is a globally recognized AI ethics expert, an advisory board member of the UK government, all-party parliamentary group on AI, member of a number of groups that are focusing on AI, including advocacy on gender diversity in AI, children and youth rights in the age of AI. So many provocative areas for our thinking. Maria, what do you want us to provoke to think about today?
First of all, thank you very much for the invite to be on this panel. It's fantastic to celebrate the International Women's Day together with you all, and happy International Women's Day to all of you out there. We are hoping that we will inspire you to join us in the AI revolution and data science revolution with our remarks. Thank you very much for the speakers. I think you made some fantastic remarks. I've been busy taking notes, so I make sure that I will complement your points of view with my points of view and add a little bit of flavor from where I sit, which is quite a interesting position, because it's not only that I get to see firsthand the AI revolution, I get to be part of it. In my position at PwC, I work with clients both here in UK but globally, and get to see how people are getting very excited and talk about benefits, but also how AI has already shown its teeth and how AI can harm through some application where human rights or values were not properly considered and integrated. So the few points I want to make is the fact that in developing AI, it's not enough to rely on regulation. It's not enough to rely on educating data scientists or lawyer. It's really important to consider ethical and responsible AI a strategic priority that comes down from the board, from the C-suite, and understand that with AI potential to be that disruptive, both providing benefits, unbelievable benefits from optimization all the way down to generating new sources of revenue or solving big problems in society, it comes with a set of risk attached that we really have to pay attention. It's not only that we have seen cases when AI was discriminating women in recruiting. We have seen here in UK a case when algorithm was used to grade students at A level. It's the Romania version of baccalaureate, downgrading students from poor neighborhoods, which showcase firsthand how AI is in fact damaging groups that were marginalized before. So why C-suite should care? First of all, besides the fact that regulation is coming, as Janina pointed out, and firms, companies could be facing with regulatory fines, there's another aspect where C-suite is much more concerned with the use of AI, which is the brand reputation. Many companies have worked tirelessly for years to build the reputation of their companies, but using AI in unethical and unconsiderate manner could damage the way the companies are perceived there for their clients and society, and as a result can have dramatic impact on their whole organization and the way they provide their services. But secondly, besides being a competitive advantage, responsible AI and ethical AI needs to be an integrated approach. Gone are the days when we are putting our hands in our lives in the hands of data scientists and engineers. In order for AI to be properly considering the values of the final users, we need to bring together more disciplines. We need not only to have diversities of gender and race and age, we need to have cognitive diversity. We need to bring not only data scientists, but social scientists, human scientists, ethicists, and all sorts of engineers that work together to build an AI that considers different perspectives. And lastly, it's really important to start educating and upskilling everyone who comes in contact with AI, not just the developers and designers, but also very important, the ones, all of us who are using it. How many of us actually know that we have been using AI for quite a while. Social media's success is down to AI. They have been collected huge volumes of data, and with the increasing processing power and storage, they ended up perfecting the use of AI at scale. So next time when you go on TikTok or on Facebook or on Instagram, you should know that you get the post you see because there's an AI behind that has picked up your preferences and it's customizing you. And the last thing I wanted to say is that while many talk about AI as something that is in the future, I would say that AI is here to stay, and it will come to Romania much faster than anyone could think about. And it's very important for Romania to start preparing for the AI revolution by having a national AI strategy, for example, but also other public policy initiatives from a national data strategy, besides the digitization options and initiatives that happen at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria. And I think that the points that we are raising were a full conference on their own, which I hope that the organizers will actually do somewhere in the future. With your thoughts in mind, as well as with the other speakers in mind, I think that it is now my turn to go last on the list. This time on a general topic, but also on a specific one, as I warned the audience. The general topic that I would like to touch is that Martina announced in the very beginning, namely that data science aim is actually to address the truth, to discover the truth. Now, problem with that is that this is the key notion in justice. So all of us in the justice system, in the dispute resolution system, be it the courts of law dispute resolution system or the alternative dispute resolution system as arbitration, for instance, we are in the search of the truth, and we are trying to identify the relevant facts that are identifying for us what truth is in a specific situation. So we are not as witness of the real facts as they happen, but we interpret the facts as they are presented to us in the form of data. And as Mirela rightly pointed out, this is an operation where we do document analysis and we also do legal research. all of such operations are subject to the help of AI in the future, for sure, but both of them bear also the responsibility, the huge responsibility of, in the end, taking a decision on a person's life, assets, values, or consequences of their actions. In this context, I would only put one warning topic on the table for the regulatory to think about. It is an interesting provision concerning the Romanian magistrates, lawyers that are performing the task of being judges or prosecutors, which is that they have to rely on the law and their own conscience. This is a dual test. The law is something objective. The own conscience of every one of us is not. So while we might have artificial intelligence to deal with the law and the facts, we still have to think about our own conscience. And I heard the proposal that was made about regulatory and other type of solutions to allow some human input at some moment in time. And I'm very much sympathetic with keeping that as an option for some areas, including the justice area. Now, to turn to the second point, the more specific one that I mentioned, the one related to arbitration. For those of you who are less familiar with that, arbitration is a form of private justice. It's an alternative to the courts of law. And this has been a reaction precisely, if you want, to something similar to automation, namely something similar to the average approach to a mass a number of disputes. So if you want, it's the custom-made type of dispute, dispute resolution, as opposed to the standard type of dispute resolution, which is the one provided by the courts of law. In doing so, arbitration has adapted over the years to the needs of particular individuals and to unusual cases, those that were not properly addressed because of the standardization by the regular courts of law. For instance, huge amount of data. Cases where a judge would be in difficulty when addressing it among so many other cases that a judge would have on their agenda. So this huge amount of data led the arbitration to flourish in construction law areas, for instance, or other areas. High technicity, lack of understanding of a specific technical issue, which is of a very niche area by a judge, led to the need of specialized arbitrators in that area. Like, for instance, it would be the technology disputes. And here is the Silicon Valley Arbitration Mediation Center thought of launching the tech arbitrators list, precisely because there are very few people around the world who are able to understand from legal perspective the technologically advanced area of the new technologies. So if with that in mind, the arbitration in itself, it's exactly the opposite of what automation would be. So where the automation role might be in arbitration, then the question starts. And that is an interesting question. First of all, we can benefit from all the tools that are related to the evidentiary, of course. That is something that can be done. We can also benefit from the norms are concerned. So that is also an area, the legal research. But when it is about, for instance, deciding something, I think that arbitration in the end will become the alternative to artificial intelligence. And this is my proposition to you, that while we are nowadays working with arbitration as alternative to the courts of law, I think that in the future, with the digitalization of the courts of law, we will have two sets of situations: standard, automized, artificial intelligence decided cases, and we will have human decided cases. And what nowadays is courts of law versus arbitration, in the future will be automized dispute resolution versus human-centered dispute resolution. And possibly, I would put this challenge of the future in your hands and think about it. I don't know if that will be the development in the future, but for sure it is one of the developments that we might see. Always a trend has a counter trend, and it is always room for human hearts, human conscious, and human approach pairing with the technology. So with that thought in mind of us making a great team in the future, technology-based justice and human-based justice, I hope that our audience will think about the questions that we all have addressed today. And I want to thank you all for your participation today. It was a great privilege to have the moderation of this panel, and I very much hope for us to cooperate in the future to develop wonderful ideas as those exchanged today. Thank you all, and now I'm back to the moderator of the overall event of today.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lava. Thank you very much, ladies, for your outstanding input. Although I'm not a specialist in your field of work, it was very, very inspiring what I've heard, and I really understood the challenges that you are facing and that you are talking about regarding your profession. So it was very, very interesting to hear from you. Regarding the example that Mrs. Morar was giving, unfortunately there is no artificial intelligence for rude people. We have to cope with that. This is it. So this was the first business panel. Thank you very much for all that I've heard. Thank you very much for your presence. You are inspiring people, and you are talking earlier about so much talent that is not optimally used in the society. So we are very, very lucky to hear and to benefit from your talent today. Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you, Mrs. Lava, again for moderating this panel. And we'll see each other at 12 o'clock with the second business panel here at Women in Data Science.